I had a friend from the Ivory Coast who was working illegally because when his asylum case failed, he got his benefits cut. They stopped completely. He got kicked out of his housing and basically was left in the streets. So he, in desperation, started to work illegally. He was getting paid £3 an hour, and he was working 12-hour shifts every day, 7 days a week. And he was paying tax. He was paying probably more tax than anybody else in that factory. And then for paying tax to the government, for funding the economy, he was picked up by the immigration police because he was working illegally, and he was sent to prison. And first he had to serve 2 years in Durham prison, and then they deported him. His ability to get his case reviewed was completely lost. And that is what is happening within this legal system. And this is what we are trying to oppose in TCAR. We're not just here to talk about asylum rights, to talk about refugee rights, but we're here to try and link that struggle up with the other struggles against racism in Britain. And that can be racism on a state level, like how the old Home Office runs, like how the immigration system works. It can also be racism of the daily newspapers, where you see racist headlines shouting out left, right and centre, trying to manipulate people, trying to make out that all Asian people are terrorists, that we have to be paranoid about everything. I was in London just recently, and I was shocked at the amount of posters, the amount of announcements that were about, if you see any suspicious baggage, please report it immediately. If you see anything suspicious, please report it immediately to the anti-terrorist hotline. I saw announcements that said, do you trust your neighbours? Is anything suspicious happening in your neighbourhood? Ring this number, anti-terrorist hotline. So that is basically manipulating a climate of fear and paranoia, to make people scared of their own neighbours, to drive wedges between different sections in our society, so that instead of uniting together to fight for a better system, to fight for our rights, that people are left to fight over the scraps. So you get asylum seekers who are opposed to migrant workers because they say, well, we have a political reason to be here, we've been persecuted. But those migrant workers, they just want to come here to make an easy buck. You also have migrant workers who say, well, we're here to work. Look at the asylum seekers, they're not working, they're lazy. We're here to support the economy. But this situation has been manipulated by the media and by the government, because in actual fact, these two groups of people are in exactly the same situation. They are both exploited. The asylum seekers are fleeing from wars, from destruction, from environmental destruction in their countries, which often the British state is involved in, like Afghanistan, like Iraq, where they're involved directly in making a war in those countries, but also in countries like the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, where they're involved in they extract huge amounts of gold, of coltan, of copper, of diamonds every day. And at the same time, they fund a regime over there, they fund the Kabila regime, a dictator, who, in return for arms, makes sure that the price of gold keeps low. And so this is why we have a civil war in the Congo. And you might not think that the Congo has anything to do with Britain, but actually, pretty much the majority of people walking around here today in Newcastle city centre have a small piece of the exploitation of Congo in their pockets. In our mobile phones, there's a substance called coltan. This is one of the most expensive minerals after uranium and plutonium. It is used in almost every laptop and every mobile phone right now, and the majority of this material comes from Congo because they have the highest levels of Congo natural resources in the world. So on the one hand, you have this country that has a lot of gold, has a lot of diamonds, has a lot of coltan, has a lot of copper, has huge amounts of mineral resources, riches. Yet it is one of the poorest countries in Africa. And the reason why is because Britain is exploiting, extracting and exporting all of these minerals and taking the profit. Why do you think Britain is a rich country? What do we make? Where are our industries? The main industry of Britain is the banking and arms trade. That's how Britain is making money. What they do is that they take money, they borrow money cheaply from countries all over the world, and then they lend it out again at hugely extortionate rates with huge interest prices. It's like a parasite sucking on the rest of the world, getting fat off the rest of the world. Not only that, they go to countries all over the world and take whatever resources that they want. And this is how Britain is rich. We're here today to speak out against racism, to speak out, to expose the nature of Britain in a global context, because it's not just about one country. You can't understand Britain without understanding all the countries around the world that Britain has exploited, that Britain has used, that Britain has invaded, that Britain has colonialised. Britain would not be a developed country without intended underdevelopment of countries all over the world. You see countries like Bolivia and Venezuela who have been fighting for control of their own natural resources. Before, they were basically a rentier state. The US used to just take as much oil and as much gas as they wanted, and only the elite of Venezuelan society got any of that money. The US took the rest. And now they have nationalised those resources, and they're trying to use it to develop the society. They're trying to use it to pay for free education, for free healthcare. But the problem is that because after 80 years, 90 years of oil exploitation in Venezuela, all the rest of the other industry has gone out the window. So that means that these countries like Venezuela and Bolivia have been systematically underdeveloped by countries, imperialist countries like the US and Britain and many countries in Europe. They just want to use these countries to extract raw materials, and then they export them and process them somewhere else, and the country itself gets a pittance for it. And because of this, that means that it's very difficult to develop any other industry. And this is how we can understand what is happening in the Congo as well. The Congo is one of the mineral richest countries in the whole of Africa, but it's one of the poorest in terms of GDP. And that is a direct result of systematic underdevelopment by imperialism. It's specifically by British imperialism, as they just want to go and take as many resources as they can from the Congo cheaply and then make a profit on selling them. Well, we are always here on Saturdays at the monument or close to the monument, speaking out against racism, holding anti-racist stalls, talking to people about up-and-coming demonstrations, because we believe that we can't just write leaflets, we can't just write a letter to the government and they're suddenly going to listen to us. Our activity on the streets is essential. We need to get on our streets. This is our city centre, these are our streets. We need to use our voices to hold demonstrations, to resist snatch squads, to occupy government buildings when our members are being deported to countries that we know are not safe.